Good morning, Mrs. Aircrete. Good morning, Mrs. Aircrete. Good morning, everyone. If anyone like to join me in the Zoom call, just click on the Zoom link and we could chit chat. Otherwise, I'm going to play around with a design. Let me try and switch my screen. Okay. Let's see, we'll open that. Okay. That one's in the room. I am still getting used to this because I got to use a third-party app to be able to link my camera to my Zoom to play through YouTube, and I'm still getting the hang of this app. So anyone, come on in to the Zoom room. I have a design that I'm playing around with for a future build, and there's a property in Colorado that has that's a 6.5 acre lot that I'm designing a hyperbolic paraboloid home for a future build to hopefully flip. So anyway, this is just the very beginning process for me doing a design. Like, all I know is I'm going to be using the hyperbolic paraboloid airform. After that, I'm not sure exactly what design I'm going to come up with. I'm not sure the exact square feet. Anyway, yeah, so I'm doing a design there. So anyone wants to jump on a call, have a comment. Let's see what's going on here. So Harry, the scary ingredients in your foam mixer is pine SAP. Pine sap, I told you about this. No, I don't think I ever read that, Mike. About the pine. But as far as my experimenting with Aircrete and foaming agents, I'm pretty settled on the Drexel, so I don't think I'll be experimenting with anything else. The whole reason I did those experiments was to figure out what the best solution for my situation was going to be. And when I say that, I mean, my situation in which I can get a wide variety of different foaming agents or different ingredients being here in the US, opposed to a lot of people in a lot of other parts of the world that can't get the same ingredients that I can get. So I could see, for them needing to experiment still and mix up the recipe for foaming agent to find something that works really good for them, they'd have to do that. But I'm done with experimenting on foaming agents. I did Drexel. I've used 3 different commercial foaming agents, and one of the foaming agents was from my Richway batch foaming machine that I purchased in my quest to figure out Aircrete and foam and all that. And so that was a really expensive machine. that I bought, and it's a commercial machine, and I use their commercial foaming agent and another foaming agent, and the Drexel I found to be the best out of all the foaming agents and all the soaps. So that's my stance on the foaming agents right now. Is I'm just all about the Drexel. Yeah, hemp glue. I haven't used hemp glue. I haven't even used hemp. I haven't even investigated hemp recently. Last time I looked into hemp at all was a year and a half ago. I was looking to get hemp fibers, because I wanted to experiment with hemp. I wanted to play around with it. But everything I found was just too expensive, especially for me to just be playing around with it. I wasn't willing to spend the money on it, considering I knew I wasn't going to be using that as a main ingredient in my structure. But I do love the idea of hemp and everything that comes with it. I would like to mix hemp with Aircrete, just to have that hemp fiber, that tensile strength from the hemp, and just to, because I like hemp. I think it's a great product for a lot of reasons. I think this country is lacking on hemp. We should have tons of hemp farm and a whole hemp industry here, back to making the fabrics. Like, everyone's clothes should be hemp, really, because it's the strongest fabric. It gets softer and softer over time. It's too bad we're not still working with that and growing it here in mass quantities, like they are in some other countries, like Canada. Anyway, so let's see. This is a design for a house I did a while ago, and I'm just using this home as a reference because I laid everything out very clearly. And anyway, this is the garage, and so my intent with this design is to incorporate a garage. Let's see, is that layer locked? Okay. Oops. Wrong perspective. Okay. This is kind of what I'm thinking. These structures would all be connected. This would be a garage. Alrighty, so anyway, I gotta do a complete design of this. Change the windows, put a nice door here, place windows, make a nice rendering. I'm gonna work on this idea and come up with a nice floor plan, which I just started. I just started by just laying out my appliances and bathroom furniture and stuff. I have to figure out exactly where everything's gonna be. Put my walls in here. I'm gonna make a home design. I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 bedroom. I have to see. Yeah, so I have to see. Let's see what's going on here. Have you done the testing yourself, Mike? Okay. I might from space. That's your channel as well. Another trick is a recipe I modified from Styrocrete, which I just added for household baking green. Yeah, that's cool, Mike. I definitely love that you're doing your experiments. That's one thing for sure I'm grateful for since starting my channel, because when I started, I was the only one really doing the experiments on YouTube, and I spent a few years doing that before I started seeing other people experimenting, And so I love when other people experiment. Saves me time. There's a lot of channels that I love to watch on YouTube of people doing their experiments. Man, you even microwaving your blocks, huh? Interesting. So Mike or anyone else in the YouTube right now, there's a link in the description box. Oh wait, there's the wrong link. I just checked. There's a YouTube link, not my Zoom link. So let me change that. Get this correct. Okay. So there is a Zoom link in the description box below, and you guys can just click on that if you like to chat live. Live on Zoomy. Okay. Railroad, why don't you join the Zoom link and I'll answer your questions. So, anyway, on the screen is for anyone who just walked into the room, or clicked to sign on, is a design I'm doing for another property for a future build house flip. And so I would definitely like people's opinions and thoughts on an idea, maybe even help me design this right now, lay out a few things. But yeah, click on the Zoom link, join. You don't need to use video if you haven't combed your hair, because it's been a early morning for you. Just come on with a messy head and leave your video off if you choose, but you can chit chat through the Zoom now. My biggest suggestion though for pouring into walls is sealing, making sure you got a good seal all around, because Aircrete just loves to find any little gap and leak out of it. So definitely sealing the space you're going to pour into. Very key. Anyway, let's see. I actually have to turn my phone on so I can see comments. See comments while I'm working on the 3D CAD program. Alrighty done. Anyway. Volume off. Pine sap. It's funny you say you're talking about the pine sap, because just last week I was watching videos on how to make pine sap or pine glue. There was a glue used for shipbuilding. That was pine tar or pine sap. I think the sap and tar are the same thing. Not sure exactly, but if it's made through a distilling process, I guess it's distilling. They heat up pine in a can, and the oils extract from the pine, and they collect that, and so that's used for gluing, for waterproofing. So you're saying, yeah, I have tons of pine trees around here. So, okay. Well, I don't have anybody in my Zoom room, and let's see. Mix wool into the mix and plug holes and mix. Yeah, yeah, Mike. I like that too. That's something else I've been actually looking to get more of is wool. I've been looking into finding a good deal on wool because we have some wool blankets. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm becoming more aware of the fibers we clothe ourselves with. And energetically, a lot of these unnatural fibers are not good for our bodies. So with that in mind, I've been looking more into organic materials like, cotton, organic cotton preferably, and hemp and wool. And wool is another big one for me that I've been looking into. So I get what you're saying, using the wool as a as a material. You can soak the pine and stuff holes. Yeah, definitely. What's up, Ralph? How you doing?
Pretty good. Levi jeans were originally made with hemp, and they
Yeah, I
had
know. Right. And also they
nobody
when
would need to buy them because they would last so long.
yeah, and those jeans were actually made from used sailcloth.
Yeah,
When they originally started, they would take, because all the sails for the ships were made of hemp fiber. That was hemp cloth because it was so strong. And
yeah. Our
yeah,
founding fathers were all a bunch of pot growers.
say it again.
Our founding fathers were a bunch of pot
Oh
growers.
yeah, yeah. They were growing all
Grew up
that
in the
pot and hemp.
yeah, bootleggers and pot growers. How's it going, Harry?
It's good. It's going good.
Yeah. It's cold.
It's snowy now. Yeah, it's I
Yeah, we
think
don't have
32.
cold here. It was like 22 degrees this morning.
Let me see something. I think I can share my screen and still keep. Let's see, share screen. Okay, and this is still showing. Okay. Yeah, I was saying earlier how I'm still learning how to use this third-party app that's allowing me to do Zoom call live on YouTube. So I'm still figuring out some things.
Did you ever get your camera figured out?
Did I ever get what figured out?
Your camera? Remember how your camera was
Yeah, I
overheating?
mean, no, I haven't. What I figured out is it likes to overheat. So
Yeah.
actually, speaking of that, I think I'll just turn my heat off for a minute so I don't overheat my camera. What's up, Railroad? See, we got Railroad on the line. Okay, so let's see. So Ralph, I was saying earlier that I was working on a design for a future build.
Yeah.
It's a vacant lot right now, and you can see the dimensions: 450 by 500. So I was considering using the hyperbolic paraboloid airform I have
Yeah.
to make a home. I
There
don't
you go.
I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do, but basically the one structure alone is 1,444 square feet.
Wow,
So
that's pretty big.
yeah, and my thinking was this here one side would be the garage, workshop, or garage slash other room. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because this is 64 feet long by 24 feet wide. So half of it could be for the garage, and then the other half could be another living space or workshop.
Hmm.
I was thinking the center building here would be the main living quarters. That I'm just starting to come up with a floor plan.
Yeah.
And maybe here just a big open space or more rooms or something. Not sure exactly, but that's what I'm doing now. Just coming up with the idea and design.
Yeah. 1,400. square feet, you're liable to lose Mrs. Aircrete.
Yeah.
Where'd you go, honey?
Yeah. But the beauty is, like we mentioned in the first live call we did, I'm estimating this to cost around 15,000 to build, 15,000 in materials for just the structure.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Not anything inside.
Will that be with your epic mix?
No, that actually, well, yeah, the epic mix would be a layer, but the main material would just be a stucco mix, a regular stucco concrete mix.
Oh, like a gunite.
Yeah, yeah. It'll definitely be a shotcrete.
Yeah.
It'll definitely be a shotcrete. So I'm seeing Edwin's asking about the airform. No, this hyperbolic paraboloid I purchased, it's a reusable airform. That's why you see 3 structures now that could increase later to more, because once you have the one reusable airform, you could build as many of these structures as you want. And so that's the deal with the airforms there, Edwin. Yeah, so the at 15,000 to build one of these structures is, I think, the best thing in the world. Because I've been watching the videos, and I showed it before, where the guy's building a mobile tiny home on a trailer.
Yeah.
And he spent $60,000 just for the shell, just for a wooden shell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow, and it's just like a 30-foot trailer or something. Here, I'm talking about 1,444 square feet for $15,000.
Retired carpenter living in California. Yeah, I'm done with wood.
Yeah. I mean, it burns. That's the biggest problem. It burns. You know? How many people have lost their homes throughout just the last century alone due to fire?
Yeah.
Just imagine if every home were made of cement or stone or even earth. You'd never have a fire. What a massive difference it would be if every home were made of a material that did not burn.
Yeah. An insulated material that doesn't burn.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're playing with.
I've got one more house left in this old beat up body, and so it's going to be out of Aircrete for sure.
Yeah. So,
big 24 by 64.
Yeah. So let me
huge.
Let's see, we drop this measurement in. Okay, yeah, so that's 64. Oh, right
near. I want to build a 40 by 60 shop and dig it into the hillside.
40 by 60 shop?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be 40 foot wide, but 60 feet deep into the hill.
Yeah.
And then, backfill on top of it.
What are you going to use for the structure?
Well, I was thinking of super dope continuous earth bags. Because the clay consistency I have out here is awesome for super adobe. And you put a little bit of Portland in it, and it becomes like concrete. And
no, I like it because it's an inexpensive material that on your land already. I love the idea of using earth in that sense, because it just makes sense. You know, especially for a structure that size being buried. You know,
Yeah.
because if you were to do that in concrete, you'd be spending like $20,000
Oh,
easy.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, easy on that same size structure because concrete's expensive when you're building huge structures like that. See, the beauty with what I'm doing with these structures is they're all designed to be thin shell concrete
Yeah.
reinforced structures, and it's a big difference than an 8-inch thick slab, that you got to do to support the walls to keep the earth out. And
Yeah.
even the dome, even the dome, you could still do probably like a 4 to 6 inch thick max to have all the strength you need to bury it.
Yeah.
And that's still thin considering the normal thickness that they would build, like a retaining wall or a wall like you're discussing for
Yeah.
burying. Yeah, I'm aware of the honeycomb geometry. Absolutely. I don't recall the story where I heard the story, but I do recall hearing a story of someone who one time slept on a ledge, and under the ledge was a massive honeycomb hive, a honeybee hive, and that the energy, what they determined later, was that it was the honeycomb shape, and being such a massive hive, that honeycomb shape was giving an energy off that was like a healing positive energy. And this was proven later, and this is why some people now put honeycomb hives, beehives, on the side of their home so that they can get the energy coming through. Another thing that was figured is each honeycomb has its own frequency, its own vibration. And so if you have multiple beehives, the reason bees can find their way back is because they pick up the frequency of their hive. It's not even so much about the scent, even though bees are known to have really good sense of smell to the point where they've used bees for bomb detecting. But there's a frequency, because an experiment was done where a beehive was moved after the bees left. The beehive was moved from its location to behind a brick wall at a over, and over from where it was originally outside. And so it was moved inside behind a brick wall, and the bees still found it. They were trying to get through the wall because they picked up the frequency of their beehive. So yeah, there's a lot to beehives, the honeycomb geometry.
Well, that's how a bee flies, is by frequency. The flapping of the wings creates the right frequency.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that bees and flies and all these, they have a hollow cavity in their chest somewhere, and the flapping of their wings creates a vibration in them that causes them to fly. And some people believe that vibration is a gravity control or anti-gravity thing, and that's why those flies can move so fast. And
well, yeah, that's how they say that the pyramids were actually built.
yeah, I've heard stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Does your Epic do well in tropical environments? Would a Styrocrete do better? I'm concerned about water and mold. Yeah, anywhere I use Epic, I would always use a stucco layer first. Because every time I build my structures, besides the first structure that I built, every other one had a regular sand cement stucco mix sprayed on first, about a 1/2 inch thick, before spraying the Epic, because of the molding issue, because the Epic has paper mixed in it. And so yeah, if you used Epic alone and you're in a high, wet environment, you would get mold. So to avoid that, you just simply put a thin layer of stucco cement first, sand cement, sand and Portland cement mixed, and you ideally a ½ inch thick. A ½ inch thick would be good. A ½ inch thick is better. So you get a lot of strength from that cement mix, but also it's giving you a barrier between your epic cement mix and the interior of your home, your structure, whatever the structure is. And so that's the only way to use epic to avoid any molding, is to first do a stucco mix first. And then what's great is the epic you can do on top of that, and you can change it from a dense Aircrete to a very lightweight insulative Aircrete by just changing the foam quantities according to the recipe. Because that's how I built the dome we're in now, is I did my structural mix first, and I sprayed a bunch of layers of structural mix, and then I changed it to a very lightweight mix, which in the video you see me when I'm building it. The lightweight mix was so lightweight, my pump could not pump it, so I had to apply it by hand. So I made these big epic bowls of cement, and I mushed it onto the dome for my insulation layer, but the structural mix was already up and keeping my structure standing. Man, that video lag is crazy. It shows me I'm still working on my design on YouTube. I wonder if the audio's... Okay, let me listen. Oh, I see. My video got rewound somehow. Alright, that makes sense. So let's see what else we got going on here in the chat. Glycerin works. This is a thing, an experiment you can do. Let me ask you, did you make your own pine tar or your pine sap mix, or did you buy your mix, Mike? Has anyone done a video using the sap that way? Yeah, good question, Edward. So, let me see. Where's my zoom? Oh, here it is. So Railroad took off. He didn't say a word. Where'd you go, Railroad? Once again, everybody on YouTube, we have a Zoom link. You can click on it to chat live if you so wish. Let's see. Okay, so let's go back to this design here. Ralph, when you think of interior walls, what size walls do you think of? Are you a 4-inch guy?
Mine, I'm going to do a 8-inch.
8-inch for interior walls?
Oh. Well, no, I'll probably just do standard interior walls. I'm not going to have many because I'm going to have multiple domes connected to one another.
Right.
You know, all I'll have is like separating the bathroom or make a closet or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm a big into the open floor plan for the domes. I think the domes work great for open floor plan designs. I think this structure also will work great, except this is going to be my first time doing a floor design for this type of structure, so this I feel like will need interior walls. Whether or not the walls go all the way to the roof, to the ceiling, I'm not sure about. I think it may. I think I may have the walls go all the way up to the ceiling on the inside to create rooms and privacy. But I'll have to see. What's this? Double shelf, of course, with insulation in the middle, stucco, epic, stucco, or styro, Aircrete. What you recommend? Yeah, listen, as far as the epic, if you have trouble like getting the paper because you need 50-pound bales of paper mulch, or shredded paper. So it might be, that might make things more complicated, unless you shred it yourself. Because I was able to buy like 1,000-pound bale of compressed newspaper from a recycling plant, and my intention was to soak that and shred it and use it as the paper for the Epic, because that was the least expensive way to get my paper. And that bale cost me either $60 or $80 for 1,000 pounds of paper. Now, the same amount of paper, using the method that I used to build my first dome here, that would have cost around $2,500 and paper bales, 50-pound papers. So the paper is great because it adds a lot of strength to the Epic mix. And the idea behind the paper is it's supposed to be really cheap and inexpensive. So $2,500 didn't make sense to me, which is why I bought the big bale. But then that's a whole process too, to soak it and shred it. Unless you have like a big shredding machine or something. There is something called a towable mixer that people who made Papercrete came up with. And basically it's just an axle from a car that's sticking up through a barrel. You look up Papercrete tow mixer, or just look up tow mixer, you can see videos. And anyway, it's just a big barrel and like a water trough, big, round, like, I don't know, 5 foot, 6 foot diameter, with a blade inside. And all they do is put water and paper in there, and they tow it. And that towing action turns the wheels, which turn the central shaft, where the drive shaft would have connected to the axle. You have a blade connected. So as you're towing, it's shredding the paper, and so you get a really good paper mulch that way. And so you can do that, but being how there are other options out there, which is why I showed those options on my video, just so you have different options. It depends on your situation. So like, you got Styrocrete, which Stephen Williams came up with, the Styrocrete. And then you have, Aircrete he came up with. Then you have Styrocrete, which has been around for a few decades, which is Portland cement and styrofoam beads. That's Styrocrete. And then you got other cretes that are out there. If you got a local sawmill close to you, then you could consider using wood chips in your mix. If you have mold issues, then that's not the ideal thing. You'd want to do it the same way as I mentioned before, putting first a stucco mix and then that mix, because any organic fiber will cause molding issue in a humid environment. But yeah, so you got a lot of different cement insulation cement mixes you can mix up and to insulate any cavity. I think Aircrete works great, but I think Styrocrete works a little better in a lot of sense, because the Styrocrete, and there's different recipes, there's different foam amounts you can add. But reason I like is because it won't leak out of the surface. So, because anywhere you got to pour Aircrete, if you're not sealed well, the Aircrete will find the hole or gap and leak out. But if it's mixed in with styrofoam beads, that won't happen so much.
Where do you look? Where do you get your styrofoam beads at?
I go to rent-a-centers. I'm not doing it anymore because I got a pile of styrofoam already. But I go to rent-a-center and get their used foam. The foam that they're throwing out that comes with all the appliances and furniture. And then I just shred it myself to get the foam beads.
Okay.
Yeah. J.O., what's up, J.O.? If you want to chit chat, just unmute your mic.
I didn't want to interrupt, sir.
Yeah, no worries. How you doing?
Doing well, man.
Excellent.
I'm just curious. I follow you once in a while. I live near, or I pass through Italy, Texas all the time, and considered doing a monolithic home, but land costs wouldn't allow me to do that and put a down payment on a house. So it's just out of I watch you out of hope that one day I'll see more of these pop up.
Yeah, thanks for watching. And Monolithic has some great domes down there in Italy, Texas. I mean, they're the ones that inspired me to use the airforms. You know, there've been other people out there who've come up with airform structures before, but I liked Monolithic domes process. And you know, having some friends who've built monolithic domes, talking about the cost, because monolithic domes is just the process in which they build the domes, because they also have what's called the eco shell dome, which is basically what I'm building would be considered eco shells. But then the big difference from me and them is I'm using insulative cement mixes to insulate, because their monolithic dome system uses a spray foam, which is, it turns out to be half the cost of the home goes into the spray foam. So if you spend $200,000 to build it, that means $100,000 of that is spray foam. And so that's actually why my buddy now reached out to me when he saw me with doing my experiments, because at that point he built already like 5 monolithic domes, and he was just saying the cost was too much, and so he liked the idea of using Aircrete as an insulation material, which I did also just to save money. But now, OJ, I've been talking recently on the live shows about the idea of what's the word again? Basically renting my services out. I could be, I'm not a contractor, but I could come out and assist and teach someone how to build. So someone who owns their property can be their own contractor legally, no issues. And so I would assist them. And so I would come with all my equipment. So I was just saying before, like this structure on the screen now, I estimate to cost about $15,000 to build just the structure. So basically, it would be one big open floor plan design, and you could do whatever you want on the interior as far as walls. That's what I was about to play with here, or creating walls and, like, you know, to make a bathroom and all that. $1,000 to build just the structure. Basically. Oh, that was somebody. Okay. Yeah. So that's
How would you be moving that, Eric?
Hold on. I think you two guys were speaking. Say again.
Well, I was just going to say I was glad to see you moving the industry forward, man. It's exciting to watch. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, and it's really just trying to help people build something, because, you know, I get a lot of emails, people wanting me to help them build, and obviously, like I mentioned, I'm not a contractor, so I couldn't just go out anywhere and just build legally, because I'm not trying to deal with legal problems. And so my thinking was, how can people build inexpensively? And my thought, this new idea came only because I'm in Colorado and can't do any construction here now, was I could go down to some warmer climates to help build, like Texas. And, you know, for a fee, I'd come out. You know, the number I threw out there was anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000. But you could say $15,000, I'd come out, bring all my equipment to build, for example, this hyperbolic paraboloid structure, and the structure alone would be 15,000. So for 30,000, you'd have a 1,444 square foot home, and you're not getting anything like that for 30,000. Especially nothing that's gonna last centuries, hurricane proof or resistant, tornado resistant. We can definitely make it bulletproof. That's not a problem. Monolithic domes are about 2 inches thick, and they've tested all types of rounds on their domes. So bulletproof, just because we might be coming to some crazy times pretty soon. A lot of crazy talk out there in this country. And yeah, so I'm like, holy cow. I think that's something I would have jumped on if I had the funds, obviously. I'm saying, like, there are a lot of people fleeing the coastal states, and those people who've sold their homes or have some finance, it just makes sense. I don't know how loans work. I've never taken a loan, house loan or anything like that. I don't know if it would be approved or not approved, new construction. I really don't know. I do know that
unconventional structures are super hard to get financed.
right, and what I was about to say is, I do know if you have all the paperwork, which you would get with the structure, which is engineering plans, I have all the paperwork for the insulation material, Aircrete, Styrocrete. I have licensed R-value engineer documents. So everything's been tested by all the testing, people in this country that have to be approved or have to approve stuff. And so as far as that stuff is concerned, no issues there. Everything would be completely legal, legit. You could legally get a permit. The only issues you might have, depending on where you are, is if you're like in an HOA area, because they have to approve stuff and this and that. But other than that, most off-grid places, usually you could build any of these structures.
Harry, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How would you construct doorways and windows in that?
I mean,
would you come out later?
No. On these, it would get placed as soon as the airform were inflated. Wood forms would be made, and they would match the contour of the airform. So there's, you probably know, being a carpenter, there's a simple method of taking a rod, putting a marker on one end, and just putting the other end against the airform to mark the wood, and so you could get a perfect match once you cut it. Because that's a big thing with the domes, because you're dealing with curves in two directions. You got the horizontal curve, and then you got the vertical curve. So because you're dealing with the two curves, but the framing is really easy. I mean, like it would literally just take a few minutes to make to take a 4x8 sheet of wood, line it up against the airform, and then put a marking, cut it, and then it'll match perfectly. So basically, an airform would be inflated, and door and window augments or forms would be placed against it, and then rebar and mesh would be put on the wood. So once it's sprayed, it's all monolithic.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was any way to put like an eyebrow out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100% possible. No problem with eyebrows. Oh, Red in April, off-grid. What's up, guys? Our house is 24 by 50. We have a bedroom and bathroom on each end, and a kitchen and living room in the middle. It has worked out awesome. That's a great tip. Thank you. Yeah, so on each side. Okay. Yeah, because this one's 24 by 64. So I like that idea very much. Because if you're on one end and you got to use the bathroom, you don't want to have to run to the other end. You need one close by. Bathroom on both ends. Great idea.
His and hers.
Yeah, his and hers. No. I think both bathrooms will be his and hers in the bathroom. Because I've always been a fan of dual toilets in one bathroom, you know, with a wall. Kind of like when you go into the men's room, you got, you know. So I've always liked that idea because last thing you need is to, you know, I don't want to push Mrs. Aircrete off the bathroom because I got to go really bad.
My wife is fond of bidets. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to jump off here, Harry. We got to go to breakfast. So, uh, later. I recently secured a well drilling rig. So, yeah, one of those small collapsible trailer types. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, you have a wonderful day and a Merry Christmas.
Now you can hear me in Zoom. That's a different app. Sounds off. Okay. Thank you. Sounds back on. I don't know why I got this Sony camera and it loves to heat up. And it's not even been that long. Oh, I guess it's been an hour, but still, it's plugged in. I don't know why this camera heats up so much. But can you hear me now, Mrs. Aircrete? Can't hear you. Okay, you're back. Thank you. Oh man. So I don't know when my audio got shut off. I just know I was doing a lot of talking. So listen, people, come on into the Zoom call. Let's chit chat a minute. I see BioVeda sent the message, but I don't see it anymore. Yeah, so anyway, let's see. So, where would be the ideal place? See, the good thing about this design is the flat, straight walls that I have. So how big is this? From here to here, yeah, it's like 40 feet of straight wall. Now there is a curve to this design. See, if you look here, this is from the end looking, and since this area here dips down, this is 3 feet, it dips down. That's what this blue line represents here. This interior line represents that dip here. So I do have to be a certain distance from the wall. So that is one consideration. But otherwise, everything else is straight. Is straight along here. What's up, Kelsey?
Hey, Harry, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. And yourself?
Doing well, doing well. I was kind of hoping you could riff a little bit. You kind of touched on it earlier. You're talking about going out and building some domes for some other folks, potentially.
Yeah.
Just kind of wanted to hear, like, you brainstorm, like, what other forms of income do you think you can generate, you know, with this type of building? Like either doing sheds or maybe building something for Airbnbs, or, you know, even the idea of you building homes for other people and not having a contractor's license. Like, what would it take? Like, what are the pros and cons of having a license, and what would it take to get one if you wanted to go that route, depending on different states?
Yeah, so my work around that is, number one, not building. What I was discussing earlier was, the word keeps slipping my mind. Basically I'd be renting my equipment and teaching and helping the homeowner build, because any homeowner can be their own contractor. So
Right.
you don't need a contractor's license. So I would not need a license, because I would just be renting my equipment mainly and teaching and helping the homeowner to build. So, or I'd be helping the homeowner contractor, whoever the contractor, you know, you could hire a contractor to build. And so I could help the contractor with my equipment, or I could help the homeowner with the equipment. So by doing that, I'm not a contractor, because I'm not looking to go to build a home for someone. So
Right.
so that's the idea behind that. So if you had a piece of land, you could hire me to come out and help you build a structure based on the equipment I have, like the airforms, like you know, the example that I have on the screen that I'm playing with now. So
Right.
yeah, that's the idea behind that. So you wouldn't need, because you know, it's a lot involved to get a license to be a contractor in whatever state you're in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, it sounds like you got a decent workaround on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the idea is just to save someone like yourself who wants to build a house a ton of money, you know?
Right.
Because going this route, I just mentioned, it would be about $30,000 for a 64 by 24 foot structure. And, you know, I've seen examples online of people building these tiny homes, and they're like $60,000 just for a wooden shell on a
Right,
trailer.
right.
And I'm like, 60,000? But for 60,000, you could build your own mansion just about.
Uh-huh.
You know, with tons of space. Because the 16-foot dome, back when I built it, was under $2,000, and we're still staying in that dome. So that was for a 16-foot. So you figure $5,000 for a 20-foot. And you can almost go up that way, you know, by the size. So for this structure is about $15,000 in cement materials, because everything would be, you know, concrete The floors, you know, it'd be mix of cements, Aircrete, stucco cement, and stuff like that. So I think it's a great deal, price wise, and yeah. So that's why I was thinking of it.
You'd have a tough time getting a loan. Like they would have a tough time getting a loan on that. They'd have to pay cash, right? Or maybe you'd be the bank.
No, I'm definitely not the bank, but
Well, I mean, what I mean by that is like you know, like you would finance it for them basically. Like if you put them on a payment.
no, I wouldn't do anything like that. I don't have the capital to do something like that.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah, that would be a bank. Yeah, no, I'm thinking, you know, for the most part, it would be people who, because there's a lot of people that have moved out west from the coastlines. And so most of these people had properties that they sold, so they do have the cash in the bank, easy to pay for something like this, you know. Even if it were $60,000, like that trailer, you're still having a concrete structure that's going to last centuries.
Right.
You know? And, yeah. But as far as the loans, I was mentioning we could have all the proper paperwork for someone to go to a bank for a loan, you know? So you can have, like, the floor plan. Like I'm designing a floor plan now. You'd have the floor plan. You can have the structural engineering. You can have everything that's needed. And then you could go to a bank and say you're looking to get a builder's loan or whatever type of loan that is. And people could try, because there's not that much difference between this and a standard stick frame home. As long as all the paperwork aligns, I don't see why the bank would be opposed to it, especially since it's a better investment for them, because the home will never burn, you know?
Right.
So you don't have to worry about a fire or anything like that, or the house being destroyed. So right away, there's already a step better than the bank giving a loan for a stick frame home.
What are your thoughts on maybe someone just buying a piece of land? I mean, well, you kind of did this, buying a piece of land and then building like a second home or a separate home before actually moving out there. You know, like going out on the weekend to kind of get something up until they're able to move into it.
That's why I like this system so much, because to build this would only take you 2 weeks. So you could literally camp out on the site in a tent while you build this, because it's really that quick. Once the foundation's done, all you're doing is mounting an airform, inflating it, and then spraying it with concrete. All that could be done in one day, especially since these airforms they're commercial grade, reusable, so they have a lot of strength, and they're able to take the weight of just about all the cement applied at once. I would still do it in layers, but all of it could be done in one day. So 2 days to cure, remove the airform, and you have a structure that you can now start working on the inside and doing your doors and windows. But it's really quick, you know, whether it's this or something smaller. The dome that I built, it only took me 5 physical days. You know, it was over like a week and a half period because we had snow and I couldn't work on it while it was snowing. But after the snow melted, I was able to work on it again. But it took me 5 days, and that's only because it's a one-time use airform. You know, the airform I made from Tyvek. So that airform cannot take the weight of all the cement at once. So I have to spray it in layers to build the strength up slowly. And that's the only reason that took as long as it did. And even that is still 5 days. Come on, that's really fast for building something you can live in.
Right on, man.
So what state are you in?
I was one of those guys over in California, and I recently moved out to North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got some good weather there.
Yeah. I was able to bought a conventional house. It's on an acre and a half, But something like that in California would be over $1 million. So we got it for like around 300 here. But my plan is, since we have this acreage, or, like a second lot, to build something like this in the second lot, and then once we, because once we got this house cleared, like available to rent or something, then we can monetize this one, and then make another move, as we're like moving from house to house to monetize one after the other.
Right.
So
yeah, I think that's definitely good. Especially since you already have a place to stay, it just makes it that much easier.
yeah. So I kind of just want to build something, just like a proof of concept here in my own yard. Get all the equipment, develop the skill set as I build something small, like you suggest. And then, after that happens, be able to, move somewhere else with even more acreage.
The beauty of that idea is it'll just cost you a few $100s, maybe $500 to build, like an 8-foot diameter structure, and get your feet wet, and then you can easily make that into a shed or something for storing tools or whatever. But yeah, definitely good. I would probably go with like an 8-footer, or if you get our Airform plans, you get a free 7-footer template. And then when I say $500, I mean like for everything, not just the cement. The stucco sprayers, like maybe $40. If you have an air compressor already, that's probably good enough for a small project. Otherwise, you're looking at an air compressor, maybe under $100, depending where you get it.
Right.
And yeah, that's really it. Your air compressor, a stucco sprayer, and the Airform are the only tools you really need to build it.
Right.
The cement you can mix by hand, or you can mix with a hand mixer. You could get a drill. I'm just talking about the least expensive option to get it done, and that would be a drill with one of those paint mixers, and you can mix something like that and do small batches and easily be able to build it easily.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm curious. I want to hear your takes on like different ways that you could monetize this type of thing. Whether it's building for someone else, whether it's like, let's say if I were to go in business and just build sheds for people and start running ads, hey, do you want a shed, or like?
I'll tell you the answer to that specific question, and that's the idea I'm discussing is one of those. Where you have the equipment and you rent your equipment out to people. For me, what I'm really looking forward to doing next year is just flipping vacant lots. I could get a vacant lot really inexpensively. Like you're probably in a nice area, that the property values so much, but there's lots of places in this country under $10,000 you could get, like over 5 acres, and you could easily take that, build one of these, and flip it for like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000.
Yeah, that's something I'm interested in. Like, that's one of the ideas I'm kind of thinking, like, how much would it take? And then, you pair that with some type of like terraforming where, maybe you're building a pond on site or something like that, where you can take some scrub land, do kind of like maybe even like a permaculture thing, plant a few trees, and then put a structure on site and then flip it. Or, whatever, as much or as little,
Yeah, no, that's my intent is actually to build these structures that are completely passive. I'm a big fan of the geothermal energy tubing in the ground. Not the water tubing, but the 6-inch air tubing to have air pass through there. Big fan of that. like unfortunately my area, I don't have the soil depth where I could dig deep, but I did still do it. I did put a geothermal energy system in. Problem is I had to bury it and put 8 feet of soil on top of it because I could only dig about 2 feet deep before I hit rock. But that's me because I'm in the Rocky Mountains. But most everywhere else where you could dig deep, and ideally it's 8 feet to 12 feet would be your depth that you want to go for. So if you can go that deep, then 200 feet of tubing is all you would need to be able to have that house be a constant 52 degrees, even when it's -0 outside. The inside of the house would be about 52 degrees because that's what the air temperature is. Yeah, it depends where you are in the U.S. It could be 48 degrees or 56 degrees, but you're looking at about 52 degrees, I think, where you are. And yeah, so that's one major thing that I intend to include in anything I build is geothermal energy for heating and cooling. Obviously, if it's -0 in the winter, it would be heating, and so you'd only have to heat from 52 degrees instead of -0 degrees, so you're using less energy to heat. And then it's being very efficient because of these geometries, because of the dome and this hyperbolic paraboloid, because of the geometry and the way air circulates, and even the paint that I use. Even right now, if you painted your house with this special paint, you could change the temperature by 20 degrees just by painting it with this paint that has ceramic beads in it. It'll make that much of a difference. 20-degree difference is a massive money saver. And I'm talking about everybody in whatever structure you're living in now, dome, square, doesn't matter. If you paint your walls with this paint instead of regular paint, you'd be saving money on heating and cooling your house. And that's like massive. Like you could save and the beauty is the paint costs the equivalent of the paint that you would buy at Home Depot, Lowe's. It's almost the same price. Difference is this one has these ceramic beads in there that are actually making a difference in the temperature of your home. Like that's a huge tip right now that people could do to save money just by painting.
So going back to the idea of like buying a piece of scrub land, building a structure on it. So would you still be pulling permits? Like if I were to do that, would you still be pulling permits, or would you just build it?
If for that idea, say you buy the land, you would be the contractor, and you would be building it. If we were doing a deal together and you were going to invest, because I just mentioned I'm looking to do it, and let's just say it's 30,000 to build it, right? We'll just say 40,000. If you invested 20 and I invested 20, we'd both be doing work on permits and stuff, And depending on where, depending on which state we're building in or what county even, because even the different counties in Colorado, where I am, have different building regulations. Where I am here is a lot more lax than the property that this home design is for. That property, they require you to have a driveway permit first, and then a septic tank permit, and I think even installed before they'll give you a building permit. So there's different rules and regulations for different counties in the same state even. So all that would have to be, researched and everything. And yeah, so that would be it. So you get your permitting and then start building. But the idea is whoever owns the land would be the contractor, because you can be your own contractor for your own land.
Yeah. You ever get into the law stuff?
The law, no. I like to stay out of the law. I like to avoid anything negative. That's why I am not a contractor. That's why I am not building your house. I'm helping you build your house. So The law? No, I keep away.
I guess what I mean by that is like some of the people, like who's that other guy who builds with air, Tiny Giant,
Yeah, tiny house giant, I think.
and it's not, yeah, so he talks a lot about that law stuff, just basically sidestepping some of that, bureaucracy that you have to go through just to live on the planet.
Yeah,
Um,
like I said, it really depends where you are, because even he's in Texas, and I think the county he's in, they might not even have building codes. So if
Yeah.
there's no building codes, you're free willy to do what you want. Obviously,
Yeah.
you still want to build something safe, and that's the
Right.
reason they have building codes originally, was so that you didn't build an unsafe structure and end up killing yourself and family. So, but yeah, if there's no building codes, then you're free willy to do what you want. Because I know he does electrical and plumbing, on those structures. And if it was in a regulatory, area, they would need a licensed plumber to do it, a licensed electrician to do it. So yeah, it really depends on this scenario. Like this counties in Colorado, I don't know if it's still the same, but last year and the year prior, there were no building codes. And so like for me, I thought that was the best. I was like, man, get your property. You don't have to deal with any red tape. You don't have to deal with any permits. You could just go get to work and not be held back because you're waiting for an inspector to come check your plumbing or electrical or whatever, rebar,
right,
stuff
right.
like that. But, we're talking about making money, right? The idea here is to make money. And
Right.
so I think it would be just a matter of choosing your location, Like the property that this design is for is, I bought years ago, and the value in the whole area went up. There are brand new homes. Like we get letters like every week from these real estate companies or, whoever these firms are trying to buy our property, and they want to give you pennies on the dollar for it too. But a lot of people must have sold because all the properties that were available are no longer on the market, and now I'm seeing a lot of new home construction going up. A lot of homes built this year, 2023, and they're being sold for crazy amounts of money, like $550,000 for a 1,200 square foot property, home that's on a 2-acre lot, and it's just like, what? These numbers are insane. So yeah, there's some real good potential to make money in a lot of areas using the system. So just pick a good area where you don't have a lot of headaches. Look up what areas don't have building codes or which ones have the most lax building codes. See what kind of structures are around there. Because you want to ideally build in a nice area to get new clients. But whatever, as long as you're building something nice, a nice structure for someone, I think that's really all that matters.
You ever think about Airbnb one of your, or going that route?
I have thought about that, and I hear that industry's not doing so well right now. There's one guy whose channel I don't recall the name of. He's an Airbnb guy on YouTube, and he was discussing all the things that have been happening and new regulations and stuff. And reason I didn't consider it is because I rather take, we'll just say on the long end, I'd rather spend 3 months building something and selling it for $500,000 than building something and getting a few $100s a day from.
Yeah.
I'd rather just sell it and not deal with it. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because you're dealing Airbnb, you're dealing with people, and you don't know what kind of person is gonna come and set your house on fire and set you back. Even though your house won't burn, doesn't mean everything inside of it won't burn.
Right. That makes sense. What other ideas have you considered as far as some way monetizing this type of technology?
That's really it. I'm not looking to get like patents or anything on anything I've done. Everything I've been doing is really for everybody to be able to replicate. I've had many consultation calls with people who go to my website and pay for a consultation call. Like this would almost be a consultation call. And they're in business. I'm happy they're out there making money. You know, I've helped them. I've helped a lot of people in a lot of different businesses who have, you know, asked for my advice on various projects and ideas they're working on. You know, and I'm more than happy to help, especially since, you know, they paid me $100 to talk to them. I'll give you advice. You know, it's up to the people to actually do the work.
Yeah. Totally.
You know.
Well, I just figured I'd hop on since, you know, you're kind of just freestyling, so.
Yeah, and that was the idea behind this. Is, you know, number one, you know, Merry Christmas to everyone. And number two, people like yourself, they got questions. I wanted to do something different on this live YouTube call. Yeah. And so I didn't really know what direction I was going to go with this. I just wanted to do something. And yeah, this was definitely good. You know, great questions. And, you know.
Well, one of the things that's like on my mind constantly is like, you know, I feel like everyone's just kind of stuck in this rat race. And it's like almost if you can give people like a little room to breathe, you know, they can go create something else rather than just, you know, have their nose to the grindstone so much they can't even pick their head up to take a look around for a second. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That's, you know, that's the same thing we're all going through, you know. And the thing for me is being where I am now, besides not having my own home finished yet, everything else I'm very happy with since leaving New York City. You know, cost of living went down massively. I mean, it went down tens of thousands of dollars a year because New York is just so expensive, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, when we left, I think the rent was like up to like $1,600 a month, you know. And when I originally moved there, it was like $350 a month. So the rent went up massively. You know, car insurance was crazy. You know, like $6,000 a year car insurance. Come on. It's like $200 a year now here. So it was a massive savings. And being off grid also, massive saving. You know, we're solar. Other than days like this when it's snowing, we got to turn the generator on. But otherwise, everything is solar power. And so it's just a big money-saving move that we made. And I really just love being out here. You know, we're in the woods. Yeah, I got to deal with bears and mountain lions and rattlesnakes, but it's better than dealing with nut jobs, especially in New York City. You know, the animals, I know what to expect. They want to kill me and eat me, right? The humans, I don't know what to expect. You don't ever know what. You're completely unpredictable.
I get it.
You know, I'd rather deal with bears.
I down for work and I totally get it right now.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on in the country is just, you know, all this lawlessness. So many states is. Anyway, I'm away from all that. Trying not to let that be part of my reality.
Yeah.
And so being out here in the woods helps. It's beautiful, nature, animals, bunny rabbits. But yeah, I'm considering, because I have two people who have inquired from me about assisting them, I'm considering doing that now. I'm considering going to some of the warmer states with all the equipment I have so that we could build structures. You know, I can make some money for myself so I could finish my place off. And you know, because I have other ideas I want to do here. So it'd be nice to have the extra funds, and also to have those extra funds for these land flips, you know. Because I'm not looking to get any loans from a bank. It's an idea that was recently brought to me about doing that. And I do like the idea of using the bank's money to build, but I don't really want to deal with any paperwork and anything like that. So I'm looking to hopefully do out of pocket. So to help that out of pocket, I'm considering, renting the equipment and going out and helping people build some inexpensive homes for themselves, so they could be happier and I can make some money and help people bring joy to the world.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about these places like in Kentucky or something where a tornado just like rips through a whole town? And
I think it's nuts. I think it's nuts that the people lose their homes and they keep building the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what they say about insanity. Someone who keeps trying to do the same thing over and over.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking like, okay, once it rips through the town, why aren't people going in and building domes or?
Because of lobbyists, I guess would be the biggest thing, because people who push for a particular system to stay in place because they make money. That's it. And then the second reason would just be lack of knowledge. Is people just don't know that there's something better that they could build. I think those are the two main reasons. You got the people pushing for a particular system, and then you got the people with just lack of knowledge that there's stuff out there. And then the third thing would be the regulations a particular county might have about what you can or can't build. So, yeah, that's why. I made videos in the past. I showed tornadoes in the videos, the destruction of a tornado, and comparing homes that have been destroyed by tornadoes to a home standing, that was a dome.
Yeah, tornadoes,
fires,
fire, all that.
Earthquakes,
Right.
It's like, I don't see how anyone who's logical sees, okay, wood house, concrete dome or hyperbolic structure, better all day long. Yeah, they can build fast, but what good is fast when it can be torn down by a strong wind? Come on.
Right.
And then, like, to make hurricane proof, it's like all this strapping and all this extra stuff they got to do to the wood frame house to keep it, on the foundation. And then it doesn't even always work. And then, because the problem is shit's flying, Tornado picked up a car and threw it into your house. There's no strapping going to help for that, But what would help is a compression geometry that's concrete that would just basically bounce off of. Tree would fall, no problems, no damage to the house. Tree falls on a wood house, damage.
Are you into the like the biogeometry stuff? I think I saw him in the chat earlier. Alosha is really into him, like talking about like how different architectures kind of resonate and it's beneficial for the human body in different ways.
Yeah, I'm into that big time. I have even equipment for testing. Like I have the BioWell device. That's for testing energy fields.
Okay.
So that you could test yourself in a particular structure and see how your own body's energy is reacting to the structure, or you can also just test the structure itself. You could put the device in a particular structure and test the energies in there and see if it would be positive or negative to a human energy field. But yeah, that's actually something else I've been considering. I have a lot of ideas, and I don't like my ideas just getting clogged up in my head. If you don't create them, you'll I go nuts because I have so many ideas. And so one of the things I'm doing is, because you're talking about biogeometry and stuff, for me, that goes along the lines of energies, which is along the lines of the whole spirit realm, which is something that I'm also heavy into, because I've practiced meditations, astral projection,
really?
and things like that. And so I was just talking to my wife about creating a new channel discussing my spiritual journey that I went on. And I think starting in 2012 and starting with just different books and then different practices I did and then just different experiences I had. And I think it was very powerful for me. Like, I've done things that most people haven't done. You know, like, I've seen through my third eye. I've seen with my eyes closed and a blindfold on. I was able to see around me, you know. So I was open. My third eye was open. And that's happened multiple times to me, where I could see around me with my eyes closed. My physical eyes are closed, but my physical third eye was wide open. And so that's because I got to a certain level of my meditation and my whole spiritual practice, you know. And so anyway, I'm considering doing a YouTube channel and just talking about all that, talking about all the different books, because that's where it started for me, was with the Audible books. As soon as I got an Audible account, while I was at work splicing thousands of wires, because I was a phone technician, a splicer, you know, I'd be sitting in one spot for hours working, so it was perfect to listen to Audible books. And so I went through so many books that I would have never read had I not had that Audible app. And it really I just learned so much, and it changed my life in a lot of ways when it comes to spirit and spirituality and all that other good stuff. But, you know, biogeometry, as far as I'm concerned, that's all part of that, because it's this energy field. Like, even like, you know, like the chi bowls, or like people who do Reiki. Like, I was never trained in anything. I learned stuff by myself, by accident. And I learned about this energy. You know, I'm doing this because I could feel an energy ball forming between my hands right now. It's like you can actually feel the energy force when I do this. And back when I was in New York, I was doing a lot of vending events, selling my Taurus coils and wood art and t-shirts and just a whole bunch of things that I was making as a hobby on the side. And one of the big things I used to love doing was demonstrating this energy. So I'd have my hands like this, and I'd have someone stick their hand between my hands, and they would always describe what felt like opposing magnets. And they would also feel heat, you know. And I would purposely at times put my hand in ice water, so they didn't think it was my hand, my physical hand giving the heat, but the actual energy I was sending them. And so, like, I've done, like, this is like just the tip of the iceberg of the experiences and the things that I've done and the places I've astral projected to. And so I was considering making a channel talking about all that, so someone who's never had an experience like that maybe would have an experience. Because anyway, that's really for the other channel. It'll get real deep, but yeah, I know about biogeometry. I'm very aware. I use a vortex imploder for my water. My water goes through a magnetic field. My drinking and cooking water goes through a magnetic field, as well as through 4 vortexes that spin the water to charge it. So yeah, I'm into a lot of good stuff like that. Brown's gas machines for health. Brown's gas bubbled water for drinking. Brown's gas is hydrogen and oxygen. And the plasma water, also really good. That's created in the Brown's gas machine. Plasma water that you inhale and you drink. Really good for the body, for the health. A lot of stuff, like equipment. I got like all kinds. When I was in New York, I was worried about, you know, the EMF fields and, you know, all this microwave energies and electromagnetic and which is EMF. So I have a ton of equipment for testing these fields. Like, when I went searching for my property, I had all the equipment with me. And I walked every property I went to with all my gear to test the fields, you know. What I didn't do was I didn't do any, was it wicking? wicking.
Witching. Yeah, water witching.
Yeah,
Dowsing.
dowsing. Right. I didn't do that because I hadn't practiced that yet, and I was
Mhm.
gonna do that for ley lines. Because you don't want to build on top
On
of
top of
any ley
yeah.
lines, especially any ley lines that might have running water under the ground, because that could be very negative to
Right.
build on, and especially to sleep over a ley line actually has been proven to cause cancers and all kinds of ailments just from having your bed in the wrong position in your room. You know?
So let's talk about that a little bit. How do you, so if I was looking at building, the first thing I want to build is maybe like I said, either a shed or maybe even convert it into like an office, where I'd have my desk and be at it for a number of hours a day. How would I go about testing to make sure I wasn't building right on top of a ley line?
Well, you douse. That's the best way you can discover where it is.
Okay.
Dowsing. The second way is if you have animals. Cats like to lay on the ley lines. Dogs do not. So if you see a cat, if you had a cat that's constantly going to one particular spot, it's because they like to lay on those ley line areas. But what you would need to determine is which direction the ley lines are flowing. Because you don't want, if your line's going this way, you don't want to be here, if you need to be here, away from the ley line. So the best way would be dowsing. I've not done any dowsing yet myself. So as far as I know, that's the best way. The first person who dowsed, like in Germany, there was I don't remember the guy's name, but there was a guy who went to a small town in Germany, and back in the 30s in Germany, you had to have someone douse the land before you built the home. That's how aware the German government and citizens were back then to avoid health problems, because it was proven back then that laying on the ley lines will make you sick, can cause cancer, can cause all kinds of issues. So
Right.
they discovered it by dowsing. So what happened is this guy would douse this small town, the whole town he doused it. And then afterwards he had a map of all the areas that had ley lines, and he was able to tell the people of every home that he doused who was sick and where they were sick at, because he knew where the ley lines were. So if there was a bed and the ley line was going across where your legs are, and the guy had a problem in his leg, he was able to determine that. And so there's a whole
Mhm.
thing that went behind it. There was a map from the doctor, the medical doctor, who had a map of all the people who were ill, and then he overlaid that map with the map he made of all the ley lines, and sure enough, they matched up. And like this was all proven, you could say scientifically, dowsing, but whatever, he proved it. And so ley lines you need to find by dowsing, and either find someone who's proficient at dowsing or get proficient yourself at dowsing, because
Okay.
you don't douse just for water. Your dowsing is for whatever your intention is, for what you're looking for. You could be looking for gold, you could be looking for diamonds, you could be looking for ley lines. It's whatever your intention is, but you do need to practice that. Because even like I was describing with my energies, like after a while my energy was so sensitive that I could feel the difference between different plants, from a tree to a plant, because I always blessed my vegetables. Back then I was straight up vegan and doing a lot of juicing, and would bless my vegetables and fruits. And blessing it, I would feel a pulsation in my hand and in my eyelids anytime I blessed my food. Before cutting it and prepping it, as it was still whole, I would bless it and give it thanks and all that, and feel that energy. And so it took a while, but as I practiced it, see, it's funny because just having my hands, I could feel like a connection between my two palms, this energy field. And so later I learned that this is chi, and I discovered for myself what Tai Chi and Qi Gong was all about. Why in New York you go to the parks and the Asian neighborhoods and you saw sometimes hundreds of people doing Tai Chi. And basically they're moving these energy balls, and that's what it is. So you make this ball. I know I just switched subjects, but you make this ball of energy and you actually move it around. And so anyway, I'm saying that because by practicing and becoming more sensitive, just using my hands, you're able to increase your sensitivity. So when you start dowsing, it's the same type of deal. You know, you're using a tool, copper rod, but you need to practice and become proficient at it. You know, you don't want to get false readings. You want to meditate also, which is probably going to help you a lot in dowsing to help keep your focus on what it is you're dowsing for. So, yeah, I say start dowsing. Look up a video on dowsing. I've never looked it up, but see how dowsing's done, what the dowsing experts have to say. I'm just giving you what I feel will work based on my experience with energy.
Okay. Cool.
So let me answer a question. I saw there was a question here as far as laying out, design, keep in mind individual, combine, and flow. Let me see what else. Having separate, important in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. Ascending, having all the separate areas is definitely important because really we're talking about like what the first terms that talked about energies, biogeometry, was feng shui, right? That's an old term. Feng shui of a room, energy. You know, a lot of people have done experiments. They say, you know, in a room with a corner, you want to put something living like a plant. And you know, it's just because of energy flow. You know, corners are man-made, especially 90 degrees. There's nothing like that in nature. So organic flowing, using the Fibonacci phi ratio to help design. That's what Alosha does. He uses a lot of phi ratio in designing the home. And so those things you can include even into a current structure. If you feel, you know, if someone's in a room that they don't feel really good in and it's all squares, maybe putting some curvature, even if it's just fabric. It doesn't have to be anything solid like, you know, sheetrock. Even if you just take fabric, and that's something else Alosha did very well, was he was a fabric designer. He used to make these really cool patterns with fabric. But even if you just take fabric, for example, and put it in the corner, in your corners, to make all your corners like more round, that'll help keep the energy flowing. And also pyramid shapes help to create vortexes, which also keep the energy flowing. Like a pyramid, you know, something on the ceiling with either 76 degree or 73 degree pyramid or 51 degree pyramid. Having those pyramid shapes in the house made of wood, cardboard, cement, whatever, as long as it's not metal, ideally. Even though I do know a lot of people make copper pyramids, I guess that'll be good too. But any kind of pyramid structure in the rooms will help because that pyramid shape creates a vortex of energy. And even though you might not see it, but you will begin to feel it as you become sensitive to these energies. You know, this is a practice you have to do if you want to feel it, you know. Another big thing is grounding. You know, you want to be grounded in your house, grounding sheets, grounding mat in the house, you know, because if we're talking about feng shui, we're talking about feeling better in your house energetically. The best thing you could do is ground yourself because of all the EMF that's in the air, all sticking to your body. Once you ground yourself, it just goes right through you, so you feel much better. And there's a lot of things that you can incorporate into a current room, a current home, or definitely into a new home design. And I feel once I'm done with the designs I'm working on, they're going to feel great to be inside of. Because I am thinking of those things. I am thinking of not having any metal in the structure. Because this takes away from the energies of the room. And you can just look at every ancient site. They don't use any metal in their structures. So yeah, that's that's that. I saw a question about the air form. Let me see. What's this? Exactly, I would use rainwater as a secondary source for drinking, but primary for water. Yeah, as far as the water, even rainwater is terrible now because of the chemtrails. Like, I see chemtrails here all the time. At night on my security cameras, because they're infrared, I see all these dust particles in the air. And I know it's that chemtrail stuff that they're spraying. So, water, I have a whole thing for water. Like, water is life, right? Water is the most important thing. I actually have water experiments I'll be doing soon, replicating experiments other people did, and I'll mention that in a minute. And so with water, my whole process for water, when my house is finished and I have everything in place the way I want it, I will be getting my water from wherever I get it, right? I hold my water, but I'm saying for anyone else, if you're collecting rainwater or you're holding your water, or even well water, I would do it to well water, only because I don't trust what someone else might have done to the well, to the aquifers. But anyway, my whole thing is distilling it. I take it, throw it through a charcoal filter, a biochar filter, and I learned how to make my biochar filter through Alosha's program, BioVeda. He had, where he taught his original program, he taught you how to make, a biodigester for gas, for methane gas, and a water filter. So you could easily make a very, very powerful water filter to get all the contaminants out of the water. So pass my water through a biochar filter and then into a distiller to distill the water, to then pass it through another charcoal filter again, and then into my storage tank. So basically, I'd have filtered distilled water, right? And I feel that's going to be the best thing to drink. It would be the cleanest. We're getting out all the particles from the water, all those chemtrails and all that shit they're spraying in the air. Everything's out because you filtered it, you've distilled it, and then you filtered it again. So that's my thinking behind having the best, cleanest water. And the whole nonsense, to me, in my opinion, the whole thing about water and distilled water taking or washing out the minerals in your body, bunch of nonsense. I'm not worried about it. The best way to clean your system, to clean your body, is drinking distilled water. And you can always eat something or drink something to put those minerals back in you. Or you can even take the water, put it in a container that has the mineralizers on it. I actually bought that. I haven't gotten to that stage yet in my system, but I have these mineral bowls that are meant to go in the water to remineralize it. And so that's my idea, ascending, for water, just to answer that question. I remember, I would recommend looking into bio. Yeah, I'm with you. Sending the biogas generators is great. I bought the biodigesting system from Israel, the what's it called? BioFriend, I forget. But it's the bag system. And it came with a toilet, it came with a burner, and basically it's some canvas type bag that you do all your business in, all your food waste, your human waste, depending on how you're going to use the fertilizer in the end. But so let's see.
Hey, Harry, on the chemtrail piece.
Uh-huh.
Have you heard of Mitch, the orgone donor?
No. No.
I'll
Mitch, the orgone donor?
Yeah, he built, like, you know how, like, Wilhelm Reich, you've heard of him?
Yeah.
He had, like, these long, he built, they're called cloudbusters, and he was, like, in Arizona and, like, helped it rain by using, like, this, copper
Right.
technology. and like putting different, metals inside of it and pointing it at the sky and stuff. This dude, Mitch, the orgone donor, he's got a lot of good solutions for that. If that's a concern of yours, let me see if I can put it in the chat real quick.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the name, but I know William Rife, and I know there's some other people. Probably, maybe I'm thinking of the person you just mentioned, who, from the way I understand the cloud buster to work, the most important part of that is that the ends of the cloud buster are in moving, running water. That was a very important key to the cloud buster, which were a bunch of copper tubes put into like a 5-gallon bucket, maybe cemented or maybe placed some other way in there, and that would be directed, but you'd have some copper wires, I think, coming off of the back of that bucket going to a river, ideally. And so he would point that to clouds, and that would bust up the clouds so you could save your farm from rains or hail or anything like that.
Well, this guy, I just put a link of his in the Zoom chat. Check out some of his podcasts he's done. I think you'd really dig him.
Okay, yeah, I'll check it out.
And it's funny enough, you were talking about distilled water. I was listening to that electroculture guy, Matt Rosk, I think his name is. He was talking about the exact same thing today. There's that concern, everyone's concerned if you drink distilled water, it will pull all the minerals out of your body. But, I mean, if you're concerned about that, you can just put a little pinch of sea salt in your water and you'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I know, speaking of salt, I know with the salt in the sea, you can make Ormus, also known as manna in the Bible.
Yeah.
And there's a process for that. And I know, I remember seeing David Wolf growing vegetables that were watered with Ormus water. And like the beans were like huge. They were massive. Like there were a whole bunch of vegetables and things that grew 3 or 4 times bigger than normal because it was watered with this Ormus enriched water. And so I thought that was really interesting. I mean, they showed the pictures. You saw, standard orange, and then an orange that looked as big as a grapefruit, and then a grapefruit that looked like a watermelon. It was crazy. And it was just from taking salt water or taking salt. You could get bags of salt, like Celtic salt or whatever salt, and you can mix this up yourself at home. There was a process. I've never done it. I've purchased Ormus solution before from Alchemy something. I think I have the bottles here. Something Alchemy. It was more than a few years ago. So I purchased Ormus made, but I never made it myself. And so that was another. You just made me think of it when you mentioned salt. So yeah.
Okay, I've heard of Ormus before, but I haven't done too much research on it.
Yeah, Ormus is monoatomic elements. So all of the elements are in Ormus, and it's theorized. I don't know if it's been proven, but basically you could take this Ormus powder and you can do an alchemy to it to create gold. And supposedly this was done before by some people, and it was dangerous. But it's monoatomic elements, so all the elements are supposed to be in there. And also I've read stuff where they say if you take this Ormus powder and you heat it up, it'll levitate, and it would also disappear. And supposedly this has been replicated by more than one person. So I don't know, it's very interesting. I just never got around to making any Ormus myself to try that, but I thought that was really interesting. And also people taking Ormus were more psychically connected, where they were able to predict someone was gonna knock at the door or someone's gonna call them. You know, they were able to predict it and almost speed up their reality of creation, like go from thought to reality much faster by taking the Ormus. Like I read a bunch of stuff about Ormus that's very interesting, but most people would know it as manna from the Bible. And this was what supposedly fell from the sky, and the Israelites made bread from manna as they were crossing the desert for 40 days or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard something like that on that side. Do you have any good like books or documentaries you saw or something?
You know, I'm gonna end up making the channel because all those things. Yeah, I have a list of documentaries that I would send to people. So since you're inquiring now, if you send me an email and ask for documentaries, I already have an email folder with all the documentaries that have changed my life. And so I always send that to people. I'm like, here, see for yourself, because you know, when you tell somebody, and I gotta be careful what I say. I don't want to say certain things here. But when you make certain claims about, you know, physical feeling of physical beings, people don't believe you unless you're freaking, you know, you're a medical profession, you know. So, so I say, listen to the medical professionals yourself, and here's what they had to say. Because that's where I got the information from. But you know, and I mean, there's like I said, there's a long list. The documentary, there's part of it is The Beautiful Truth, right? Which was a documentary that I think spoke about grounding. No. That one was talking about the Gershwin cancer therapy treatment. So that was a documentary done that was really good. Another one done about grounding and how important grounding is, and all this testimonials from people who grounded and had all kinds of ailments and problems, and you know, fixed themselves up. Documentaries about frequencies curing certain ailments in the body, and showing actual microscopic evidence, live time of what happens when certain frequencies are shot into the body, and like just a bunch of stuff. Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, I thought it was an incredible documentary for health about juicing. And my wife and I went on an 8-month juice fast, pretty much, after we saw that documentary, and just really, you know, everything just coincided. Like I was going through a new spiritual journey, and you know, these things were just coming to me. That all just were all part of it. You know, it was pretty incredible. So yeah, there are documents. So send me an email, and I'll send you the list of documentaries that I have that I think are really good to watch for most people.
Okay. Cool.
Let's see. So we got 13, it says in my YouTube. So I'm having a live Zoom call right now. For anyone watching on YouTube, just go to the description box and you can click on the Zoom link, and you can chit chat if you like. Let's see. Yeah, so how far are you from actually pulling the trigger on building something?
I got what you call the golden handcuffs on right now, where I got a good paying job, and it's like, but it's sucking all my time. So I kind of have to I feel like I need to make an all or nothing. So,
what kind of work do you do?
I work in tech sales, so I'm a sales manager.
Okay.
And I drive. My commute time is about an hour into town because I live kind of out in the country, and so I end up, you know, basically spending all my time either driving or working for this tech company. But I'm kind of just taking the time to save up a little bit of a cushion, and then after I make my escape from that, I'll kind of go all in, or at least get a less demanding job that's taking all my time.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
So I'm just learning as much as I can right now before, trying to, before I try and learn, learn what I can, either just commuting or, looking at stuff like this. I was surprised to see, like, it's Christmas Eve. I'm like, oh, Aries on right now. I'm gonna check this out for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I bought a property when I was in California, and I wasn't prepared for everything. And so I want to make sure I didn't make the same mistake that ended up kind of like falling apart. And then my wife and I moved out of California out to here to North Carolina. So I know I want to do it again, but I don't want to end up making the same mistakes I made before.
Yeah, no. Definitely wise to do that. Do all your research. I mean, that's what I did. I was in New York. I knew I wanted to leave New York. And I just started doing tons of research. I even took a workshop on building a house, because I got to the point where buying a already existing home was just going to be too much money. Especially I'm in New York City. So my wife and I, we did a 60-mile radius from my job. 60 miles. We looked at homes 60 miles. So from my job in Brooklyn, New York, 60 miles will take you all the way into Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and the Atlantic Ocean. So we weren't going there to the Atlantic Ocean yet. I do have an idea for a structure for that, but anyway, that's another story. But the prices were just too much money for homes. I saw a home, and this was years ago. I saw a home, $250,000. I'm looking at it, and I didn't see the value in $250,000. Like, I couldn't see spending that kind of money for that, whatever the home was. And then it came down to, all right, I'll build my own house. And then I started looking for lots. And I was way better, because the prices were way better for empty lots. Even a small one in New York. Even the smallest one I found, which was 100 feet by 60 feet in New York City, was like $100,000 for a lot. But the problem was that lot was like, all around it was like the projects, And I've lived in the projects, so I don't have anything against the projects. But these projects were bad. And I did not want to live there. And maybe that's why that lot was still vacant. But yeah, I looked around everywhere, and it just wasn't working for me. And then, I visited Colorado. I came out to visit a cousin so I could look at properties, and just fell in love. I was like, I should have did this years ago in Colorado. It was beautiful out. It was nature, It was very different New York, small towns. Like, you have elbow room. Instead of having 100,000 people in a 20 blocks radius, I got 100,000 people in my whole town. And so, that was the deal for me. It wasn't, even though I had what was considered a good paying job, made good money, I did not want to spend the money I would have needed to spend on a house. So it just works out much better. I can build my own house from the ground up, how I want it, exactly the way I want it. And that was it. I was out of there.
So now that you're completely off grid, how do you like, where does your income come from, if you don't mind me asking?
Comes from the sales on my website. Pretty much, that's it. I mean, YouTube is like nothing. It's almost nothing. Like, YouTube, I guess that's my gas money.
Okay.
But otherwise, it would just be my YouTube. I mean, my aircreteharry.com. It's foam generators, and my online 15-hour online course that I will be adding to my next structures that I build, all that content I'll be adding to my online course. So I would say definitely the online course would help me out. So if you want to purchase that, you can start learning, picking up tips. There's a bunch of information in there. It's 15 hours. We got airform, gore designs, and all that other good stuff. And so that's really it. It's my website, aircreteharry.com is it. And again, because my cost of living has gone down so much since we've living out here, it hasn't been too bad because we don't need a whole lot. Even though groceries are getting more expensive, but hopefully next year I'll have my greenhouse and I'll be growing all my own vegetables and not having to spend any money, $1.50 on one pepper. That's enough of that. It's not even organic, GMO nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the YouTube, that probably traffics a lot of stuff to your website, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's really the main thing that I have. People watching the videos and clicking on it.
Yeah.
I get some, I look at the analytics and you can see where the traffic's coming from. So it's YouTube and Google are the main ones. But, YouTube being probably 80 or 90% of the traffic. But yeah, foam generators, I put a lot of time and thought into making something that was just going to be really good. And I tried to make it, I tried to do everything really affordable, especially when I was working. When I was working for the phone company still, I was extremely generous. I wasn't trying to make I was just trying to make back what I spent and then a little bit more. When I had a regular income coming, it wasn't until moving out here that I had to raise the prices. But even still, I'm cheaper than the next company out there making foam generators. They're selling theirs for in the 400s. I'm still under 400 for my foam generator. And in my opinion, it's a better foam generator because I have the foot switch that allows you hands-free operation of your foam generator. And, nice, well thought out design. You can hang it anywhere. And it works really good. So the foam generator and the online course are probably the two biggest things. Airforms, I saw a question about airforms. And let me see. So with the airforms, I was making airforms up to 30-foot diameter. But I don't normally make airforms in winter because the material is very large. I don't have a large indoor space. So I was making all my airforms outdoors. And so the whole thing with this is when you start sewing this fabric up, it's like a giant kite. And there's days where the wind will start blowing and all of a sudden my airform is flying. I'm trying to hold it and keep it down to the ground. And so it's very difficult to make, especially large airforms outside. So I normally don't make airforms myself in the winter time. It's really more of summertime thing that I'll do. So I don't have any airforms listed available right now on my website. But if someone's looking for something, definitely reach out because who knows, maybe I can set you up with a reusable airform, or depending on what you're building, maybe you'll be interested in hiring my services out as a rental equipment and assistant teacher. Teach you and assist you in your build. I think probably I really feel like that might be the best thing because now you don't have to buy any equipment. I come out with everything. All you gotta do is pay for me.
Well, Harry, looks like we got someone else in the Zoom.
It's Phi.
Hi, what's happening, man?
Oh, nothing much.
I've been hogging all of Aircrete Harry's time right now, so Good. Next question I ask him, he's gonna charge me $100 for a consultant fee.
For sure.
Let me see something here. YouTube, everything's working. You know what? Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. What's up, Fi and Jess? Jess Castro.
Hey, good morning, Harry. How are you?
Good, good. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, same to you.
Thank you. So, Jess,
Yeah,
Fi, you guys got questions?
I think I do.
Yeah.
Let's see. I left off on that double.
The
Form.
double shell dome?
I
Yeah,
absolutely have questions.
I was thinking about the window, so I gotta get that. Find out. I think it should be like a separate mold made out of Aircrete.
Yeah,
Or
you could do that. There's a lot of ways you can make the mold. I've used a lot of different shapes to make a form for window. I didn't show it in any of my videos, not yet. I did record it. As an example, I used a car tire as a form, and I put wood around it just to make a round form, and then I put rebar around that. Then I slipped it off the car tire, and then I mounted that to the dome because I had the metal mesh there already, so I was able to tie it to the mesh, put that round window, and then I just sprayed that with concrete. So that was one way I did it. More recently, I helped my buddy build a 16-foot dome for his bathroom, and we did the forms on the airform. We inflated the airform, and for his window, he was making a square window. So we just made a square form and put it against the airform, you know, and tied it to the rebar so it didn't move. Another way we did the door was, like I was mentioning earlier, we took a sheet of 4x8 sheet of wood, put it against the airform, and traced out a line to for the shape of the airform. And then we cut that out. We were able to place that against the form, mount everything, you know, use 2x4s to screw it all together. And we had a form, you know, a doorway that was sticking out like 2 feet from the dome. And so all that wood got all sprayed with cement all around. So we had a solid door. And then, you know, depending on how strong you want to make it, that side wall you would spray heavy so you could mount your hinges to the side wall sticking out from the dome. And then you can have a door there using that form as your door frame. So and with the double shell dome, the very first one that I made, I can actually show you that. I don't know if I've shown it before in here, but on the my first dome back in New York, I used styrofoam board that I cut out a round window, and I also cut out an arched shaped door, and then all that was behind the second airform that I put over the first. And so that was to take up the space for the window so that the cement didn't fill in everything and I didn't have to go cutting through the cement. I had something taking that place. And so I've done it a number of different ways. And, you know, depending on, you know, your situation, you might use wood, you might use styrofoam like I did. But, yeah, you can do any of those.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Let me show you this video first. So hold on a second, I just have to change my screen. Let's see, does that work? Let's see, this is good. Let's see, let's share that. Just trying to figure out how to live stream. Yeah. 1 second, Mrs. Aircrete. I'm working on it. Let me try. This is YouTube. Not working. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let me make sure this is working. Let's play. Okay, good. It's working. So you see the video playing now? Fi?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so you can see here the foam. I was using that foam board here for my door. Wait, let me go back. See, so I just put foam, and you can see the cement was just sprayed around that. And later, I end up putting the other airform over this and leaving that foam there. And on the back, I don't show in this video. Let me see. Okay. On the back side here, you see I just had a round piece of foam that I cut out to make the window. And I think I just taped or glued this on to the airform. You know? So I just put that, and you know, that's just one example. That's just the way I did it the very first time. That could be easily a wood form. You can make it out of tubing and put wood around it to get a perfectly round shape. I chose styrofoam. That worked fine for me for the window and door. But like I mentioned, you know, I didn't put the videos out, but I'm going to look for them and put out the video where I'm doing the framing out of wood on the airform before any cement is sprayed.
Oh.
And so that's that was that. And then you can see I'll show you the airform. And you'll see in a minute. This here is when I was putting the second airform over the first. You can see the first airform sticking out here. And yeah, so that's putting, this is the very first time I did this. This is when I was experimenting. So anyway, we mounted that. Yeah, so anyway, that was that. I used foam. You can see in that example. And Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. I wouldn't be concerned because it's really easy. Like even in this video here with the double shell dome, I show the form going up. Oh yeah, this one too. Let me see. This video here. This was another small dome I did as an experiment.
The
And
knocklet.
you can see here I used a pallet and a piece of wood to make the arch. You know, and that was it. I mean, you just need something to make the shape, you know, and if you want it perfectly symmetrical, you just have to make your form work perfect, you know. Otherwise, you know, with the cement, you have a little playroom when applying it. You know, you can shape it a little and stuff like that. But, you know, this is an example here. And this is just like 1 or 2 layers of cement sprayed on. But that very simple formwork is just a piece of wood bent over. I guess I didn't show how I did that in this video. Yeah, but you see me spraying it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just that simple. Excuse me. And with the reinforcing material on the cement, it's going to be solid. It's not going to go anywhere. Super strong.
Yeah.
And this dome, this is an experimental dome I built. I didn't finish with this experimental dome yet. There's a ceramic bead stucco layer I have to apply before this structure is finished. This looks lopsided, but it's not. It's because the ground is sloped at an angle.
Okay.
The actual dome is perfectly leveled. It's just the camera angle and the sloping of the ground here makes it look like it's sideways. But yeah, you can still see the Tyvek. You know, this is probably the 3rd coat on the bottom there, and the top doesn't even have a coat yet on there. You can still see the Tyvek showing through on the top. But yeah, you know, that's an example. And then the other dome, the other double shell dome, has the same thing on the archway for the doorway, which is double shell dome. So, and this here again was just to show how simple it can be. It doesn't have to be complicated. You know, if you just really put your thought into the, you know, the design,
Yeah.
it could be really simple. It's not complicated. It's not complicated at all. But I'm pretty sure all of that is in my online course, 15-hour course. So you go ahead and go to aircreteharry.com. You could buy the online workshop. It's 15 hours now, but as I said, I will be adding more content to it. So anyone who's purchased the course in the past will automatically have access to the new content that's added to that. So I don't have everything in there yet. I just have everything to build the structure, but not all the finishing work yet has been on there yet.
All right.
Hey, Harry, I've got some questions for you if you got a minute.
Sure, I got a minute. What do you got?
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm up the road a little bit here in Colorado, so Merry Christmas on a bit of a colder day. But so listen, I have some really interesting projects. I have some land in Costa Rica, and I have 2 really big projects where I want to build maybe 30 to 50 domes. I'm trying to find just the right type of mix. So a couple regional issues that we have down there is, first of all, we get an enormous amount of rain. So really having a great impervious building is important, and it's quite hot too. So having a nice insulation layer over everything. So what I'm really super impressed with, I love the inflatable balloon. I'm super interested to hear your thoughts on reinforcing that with maybe like basalt mesh, if you're still really pro with that, and what, if that's a huge cost above. And I'd love to keep the rebar and metal out of it and have a more natural design, and have some sort of natural floors as well for grounding. I love all the things you're doing, so I'm curious. So I guess my idea is to do like an inch or two thick shell of shotcrete over the balloon, and then some sort of I guess I'm leaning more towards, instead of using anything that has organic material, I think I can get styrofoam down there, recycled styrofoam, to add to the mix for an insulation layer, and then another shell over the top of that to protect it against rain, and kind of seal the structure. So I'm curious what your thoughts would be on how I might, what your best thoughts on materials and ideas on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, the idea for your scenario would be reusable airform, number one. Maybe 2 or 3 different sizes. 20 feet, I think, is really a great ideal size, and you might agree if you're going to be doing like your rental properties there. But otherwise, whatever size structure you're going for, reusable airform. So once that's out the way, now everything else is pretty much just a Portland mix, whether it's a stucco mix or a Styrocrete mix or a Aircrete mix, whatever cement mix design you're going for the insulation layer, will all be available to you.
The Aircrete seems like might be a little porous, so I'm a little bit concerned about again, water infiltration and mold are huge thoughts. So I guess would you have some recommendations? Do you think that I mean, obviously we're gonna have it sealed on both sides, but I think a more dense form, and maybe just trying to layer on, like I said, I keep coming back to styrofoam because I think it's a local material that I'd be able to recycle. But literally just like packing it on, instead of doing a double form, literally just packing it on the outside of the internal shell, and then sealing another shell over the top. Does that seem like a smart way to go?
Yeah, that's pretty much the direction that I'm going with my own structure. So I'm going with, like you mentioned, about 2-inch structural mix. It's reinforced. I do like basalt mesh, but there's other, like fiberglass mesh you could also use. Whatever the best deal you could get on the materials, buying it in bulk for your project. Basalt
Would you use a
rebar.
combination of those? Would you use a combination of the fiberglass and the basalt? One for the mesh to kind of adhere things to, and the basalt more for reinforcement?
Yeah, I would definitely use a combination. Again, it depends on cost of materials and what deal you can get in Costa Rica, or if you're shipping everything down there for your build project, whatever it is. As you said, staying away from the metal, those would be your 2 options as far as a reinforcing mesh: fiberglass mesh or basalt mesh. Then you have rebar. I would definitely also use a basalt rebar in combination with the basalt mesh or fiberglass mesh. And the other big one that I like a lot is fiberglass basalt fiber chop. I always have that in my cement mix. When I'm mixing the cement up, I'll throw a big handful of basalt chop into the mix, and so as I'm spraying it, even if I don't have any other reinforcement, it already has reinforcement in the cement. But
that seems like such a good idea. I mean, really, some of the ideas that I'm after here is that the strength, I don't want maintenance either, like the cracking on it, that the basalt fiber is just going to really add to that.
Yes.
I was just reading up how Tesla just built their factory out of that, and a new stadium in LA as well. And they were able to get away from all the metals and a lot of the other things going on with that, and get just terrific reinforcement qualities out of it. So yeah, that seems really exciting to me. Yes, sir.
When it comes to the cement mix, internal temperature high.
Hmm. Mm. Hmm.
Really, the first and last layer. Your first layer being the structural layer that's going to have the reinforcement in it. Then your second layer will be the insulative layer. And you don't really need to go really thick because you're just reflecting heat. So, a few inches for your insulation layer. And then a stucco coating on top of that as a second waterproof coating. Because like you mentioned, the Aircrete or Styrocrete or Aircrete, whatever insulation layer you're going to use, you're going to end up putting a stucco coating on top of that. And then ideally, to avoid maintenance, like you just said, I would go with a dye in my stucco coating for the finish layer. So now you can color it whatever color you want without messing around with latex paint. It'll be dyed into the cement, and it'll always be that color even if it gets scratched. So there's your trouble-free maintenance thing as far as that. You have your waterproofing on the two layers. The inner layer, I wouldn't even worry so much about. Now, I do have an idea for building in those tropical environments where there's a lot of rain. And one idea is depending, clearly you have a property, you've got some capital to invest into this. So one direction I would say go in is buying these event center tents, domes. They have these inflatable domes for doing parties and things inside of. And so I would get one bigger than the structures you're going to build. So 50-foot or 60-foot diameter. It's about $4,000 to $5,000. And I'd put that up. And now you can build, and it don't matter how much is raining outside, you'll be in a dry environment inside.
We use tarps always down there.
Oh, okay.
It like stops your construction process immediately when you're trying to get anything done. We get about 200 inches of rain down in the South Pacific part where we're building. But well, shit, Harry, I'm really excited to hear that you're looking to help people do these things. Maybe you and Mrs. Aircrete can plan your next winter and come down and help me build this stuff down in the summertime down in Costa Rica.
Hey, I'm open to a lot of things. For me, Costa Rica might be a good place to visit. For me, I feel like this next coming year in this country is going to be, we're probably going to see shit we've never seen before.
I agree.
And I think it's really going to get crazy next year. 2024 is going to be nuts. And a lot of people are predicting that. I'm making my own prediction based on everything I see. And so Costa Rica sounds like a great escape.
It's a beautiful, sustainable place down there. That's part of the reason I'm building this. These two properties. One's directly beachfront on the beach, and the other one's up in the mountains on a 25-acre permaculture farm. So there's got some really good bones to start, and trying to find the right kind of architecture, really beautiful natural type stuff is, I've been trying to hone in on this for about 20 years, to be honest with you. So this is not a flash in the pan. I've learned so much from your channel. I think you're onto it, man. I think you got the right idea. So I'm excited to do some of this stuff. Can I ask you about the airforms? Do you have to put like some sort of release agent on them? How do you reuse them so many times? How do they release from the concrete after you spray them?
It's just the fabric that is made of doesn't, the concrete will release from it, especially once it's cured. I never sprayed a release agent. Actually, I sprayed a tack agent on the very first one that I built, and it was basically like some kind of latex material, and it made it very tacky, so the cement would stick to it. I didn't like the smell afterwards. After I removed it, it took a long time for it to air out. It was very, chemical smell. But I don't use any of those things on any of the airforms anymore. They don't really need it because the mesh and rebar will hold the cement. It'll give something to grab onto. And then, as you put layers on, the cement itself gives it grip and mechanical connection. But I had a question for you. What size dome were you considering building?
Yeah, well, so the beach property is actually like a hospitality project. So we have to build at least 20 units. And so I was thinking it's 16. I mean, where my head is now, 16-foot domes, and I like little arch areas for like bathrooms and bedrooms, like shooting off of the central dome is my initial idea. So I definitely wanted to buy some sort of reusable airform, and so trying to find the right one that I could get the most use out of, and maybe augment that with arches and different things coming off of that. So 16-foot was my initial idea. I've heard you talk a lot on your videos about how you like your 16-foot dome, and it's a decent amount of space. And if we're talking about hotel room type size for the beach property, that seems like a good thought, but I'm always open.
Yeah, no, I agree. And depending on which height you go with, you could even throw in a loft in it so that
I definitely want to do the vaulted, the raised height for heat in particular.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that is a thought for a loft upstairs. Sure.
And another idea for you is beachfront. So you're actually, the property goes to the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay, so a big coolant system is the ocean. And I'm a huge fan of using geothermal energy, so I would make a trench from your structures through the beach into the ocean, and put some kind of manifold.
I can't build into the ocean. We have a 100-meter setback that is, all the land is owned by the government and the people of Costa Rica at 100 meters from the high tide. And the other problem with there is the earth actually is incredibly warm. You can't go 6 feet down and get any cooling out of it. Because it's so subtropical. But I would love to have geothermal tubes like they do in Earth ships, right? Like the cooling air tubes, but it does not work there. So cooling is our biggest deal. So I'm looking for a really nice insulated dome that, we're going to have an air conditioning unit in it, but at least it's going to hold the temperature nicely.
I think you might still have other options, alternative, because I know I'm outside the box thinker. I'm like, I'll get away from conventional every which way I can.
Yeah, me too.
Especially if it's going to be more efficient and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And money saving. So just to go back to that idea, I'm not familiar with the temperature depths that you would need to be at. But my thinking is, if you're by the beach, then if you dug a certain depth, the water would come in, the water table's only but so deep. So you might still be able to dig a pit that ocean water is going to come into and cool, and you could get still some really good geothermal energy effect for cooling the structures as passively as possible. Because I'm big into passive systems as much as possible.
Yeah, me too. The ocean's 84 degrees.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I was thinking.
I get you. You could have like an exchange, possibly. I like the way you're thinking, though. It's the same way I'm thinking about this stuff too.
Yeah,
we want to reduce our footprint. Energy is incredibly expensive down there.
Because when the Trade Center was still the World Trade Center, when it was still standing, there, I got this idea from that, when they built those buildings. The air conditioning unit was from the Hudson River. There was giant tubes that had the river come in to help cool the Twin Towers. And that was part of the cooling system. So I
like
get,
a heat pump.
Say again?
It's like a heat pump, yeah, where you're getting, like one of the things that we that I want to do on this property is the air conditioners actually create heat, and we can heat the swimming pool from the air conditioners. So you're using kind of heat exchangers and heat pump systems to do these types of things. So I'm thinking exactly the same way as you, and I haven't been able to solve the cooling issue yet. So, any ideas on that? I'm super excited about.
Yeah. There's definitely a bunch of options. Because I'll give you another example. There's in the Middle East, I need to find these.
Interesting. hmm Yep. That's really interesting. I haven't heard of that one, because humidity is the other issue. So sometimes just keeping it dry will drops the perceived temperature 10 degrees or more. It just feels so much better when it's dry because it's very humid and hot. So um, I'll look into that as soon as we get off this call. That's a great option as well. But yeah, well, I'm super excited. I might at some point, Harry, I'd love to come down and visit you. I'm about 2 hours north of you up by Boulder. So I'd love to see what you're doing. And I certainly appreciate all the time and effort you've put into all of your videos and research on this stuff. So thank you so much.
Help people.
Yeah. I've also been after many years of slaving and working and finding a much more spiritual existence, and that's part of these properties as well, and why I want to keep all the metal out of them and keep them as organic and biodynamic as possible, and so yeah, I'm on the same page with you. It's important, and it all goes together, and this type of architecture is certainly um, such a better way to go than what we're doing these days. So you're on the right path, and it's for the better good for the world. So good job, man.
Hey, Harry.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
Harry. Hey, my name's John. I got a question for you. Have you ever, I like the dome concept. I've been looking at it. There used to be AI domes down in Florida that made sections, and you would hog ring them together and fill in the the seams with concrete, and then so you basically they would pre-make the sections of concrete in their factory or whatever, and then you would hog ring all, there'd be a little bit of overlap with the rebar, not the rebar, but the mesh, and you would hog ring it together. And then as you went and fill it in with concrete, and you had and then seal it with a layer of latex paint or whatever. But they went out of business. I don't know how many years ago. Have you ever looked in or tried forming the aircrete? Making forms and or making molds and making it in sections where it could be easy to handle, where one or two people could pick it up, build the dome, and then bolt it together or whatever. Then you would just fill your seams in, and then you could continue putting on your different layers of stucco. Have you ever tried anything like that? Oh no, you're fine. Because then it would be like a dome kit. You could build it wherever you wanted to in a controlled environment, and then you would take it to your site and then put it all together in in a couple days probably. Yeah. Yep.
You know, because the angle changes from the floor to the peak.
Yeah.
So you would need a different form for each. It looks like my Zoom. My computer is doing a little bit of freezing here, so we might get disconnected.
I can hear you.
I know it looks fine to you, but it's pandemonium over here. So yeah, those that idea, it wasn't feasible to do it because you would need to make so many. Let's just say, for example, the dome was 12 feet tall, right? Every foot from the base to the peak would need to be a different form to hold the aircrete. And then, let's say you did that, that would be 12 forms, and then you can only make 12 bricks a day, right? So then you'd have to do that unless you made a bunch of forms, you know, if you were trying to go into business or something. Then you would basically need to have a form for every brick so you can make an entire dome in one day.
Yeah, I know with the AI domes thing, I looked at. They even had a place where they had a down in North Carolina. I'm in Virginia, so we took a trip down there one weekend. We rented you could rent it out. Poor location. They had it on the side of a hill, and like when I say a hill, it was a mountain, side of a mountain. It must have been a 30-something degree slope. It was horrible getting up there, and the water, they just didn't have good water runoff, and it just smelled like mold, mildew. It was horrible as far as the dome itself. I think that was just on placement though. But like I said, they make them in a controlled facility wherever. They won't show you their factory. That was another thing. They're kind of, I won't say they're sketchy. They were just real secretive about their process. And they had some dome communities, I think in Florida or Texas, that they put together for like rentals and stuff like that, smaller domes. And
Yeah, no, it's I think what I've come up with, in my opinion, is really the best way to build these things. It's not the bricks because of the time it takes to make the bricks. Because by the time you finish making all the bricks, I'm finished with the entire dome. Because it only takes a week doing it the slow way to build one of these using an airform, you know. It's really 2 days with the reusable airforms because they can handle all the weight of the cement. So that's much quicker to build using the airform. So I'm not a fan of the brick method, making bricks and stuff. I don't think it's not the right choice for myself because of the time and labor involved in that. And again, most of my projects I'm doing solo. So I'm talking about I'm building all these structures solo. And so yeah, there's a big difference. Hello? Anybody there?